Today we have the draft recap of the Cow Pokemon League. This is our second season, and yeah, of course, super excited to kick this off. You guys probably watched the season recap of the last season, so I don't need to say any more of what happened there, but this time we have a bunch of returning coaches as well as some new coaches, so it should be another fun season to spectate as well as play in, hopefully, for the coaches. And just to kind of go over what we did this season with the draft board, it's basically the same as last season where we are playing in the PLA format. So Empoleon gets Roost, Lopunny gets Double Edge and whatnot, things like that. But we also banned the Hisuian Pokemon just because there's kind of not a lot of information on those out yet. And another thing we did is spread out the top tiers a lot more. So you'll see that some Pokemon like Garchomp, Mega Gallade, they have increased in price, and we added in a lot of funny new Pokemon to hopefully spice up the season a little more. So you can see we got the Dragapult, the Ashgren, Naganadel, Blaziken, Speed Boost is finally freed, Darkrai, Urshifu, Genesect, Lando, Torn was always there, Zama, Kyurem Black, no Dragon Dance. We have Shaman Sky as well, nobody drafted it though, because Air Slash is banned. And yeah, hopefully everything will be kind of shaping up to create a super fun final Gen 8 season. So without further ado, let's introduce the coaches for this season. First up, we have Blurg, aka Sid, coaching the Heisenbergmites. Sid, had a pretty good run last season. Yeah, glad he's back. Wise Guy, aka Christian, coaching the Miami Walreins. I think he's the only coach that kept his logo the same between the seasons, so definitely building that, brand name there. We have Sunny, aka Childish Android, coaching the Tarnished Hisuians. Super sick logo. And Proj, coaching the Church of Kyogre. Once again, rocking the smiling Kyogre image. Squigs, aka Simon, coaching the Supercharged Seadras. This image is taken from a tragic moment in our pre-release game when his Seadra literally got supercharged to Oko my Kingdra. So screw you, Simon. I will always be salty about that. And next up we have Broken Motor, kind of the dominating force, at least for the first half of the season, last season. He is back coaching the Suspicious Sableyes. Seems like he's got a little bit of an obsession with the SS. Next up, we have Kyra coaching the Sunnyvale Weaviles, departing from the Volcarona mascot and now changing to the Weavile, which carried her pretty hard last season, to be fair. And our reigning champion, Namu, coaching the Zenith, rocking the Darm logo, very fire. Goulian, aka Boo, from last season, he's now coaching the hair accessories with this. I almost thought this was like the freaking Genshin Impact character, but doesn't really look like it. And then we have Adrian coaching the Celestic Celtics. He has the Cynthia logo with the Mew and the Sylveon there. We have Banana Thief serving as a rival team to Proj with the Vatican city of Groudon. He was like, what's bigger than a church? And then he was like, yes, the Vatican City. So there we have it, smiling Groudon. And next up, Jesus. He was here last season coaching the attack on Tyranitar. This time he has rebranded to Go Scorbunny. And now our new coaches. So we have Inside Outside, aka Sam. He's coaching the Mets. It is literally the Mets. And then Amos Lupin. This guy is kind of like the broken motor of this season because nobody knows who he is, and he kind of just showed up and said, I'm going to beat you all. So yes, he is coaching the Big Brained Calyrex. We have Joseph coaching the No Torchics. Apparently this logo is based on his favorite ramen, so very cool. And then, last but not least, we have Ray of Darkness, our favorite pal from last season, who kind of rage quit. I mean, Ray, we kind of meme on him a lot, but yeah, maybe sometimes a little excessively. He is back after a long break from Pokemon, coaching the Blank, really on his no game no life shit with a blank logo and blank team name. Anyways, with all the introductions being done, let's actually take a look at what each coach drafted. So to start things off, we have Sid. Sid drafted well, first of all, Sid actually decided to franchise the Wobbuffet from last season, so very based franchise pick. Definitely did him a lot of good last season, so it's cool to see him bring it back. But after that, he drafted round 1 Speed Boost Blaziken. Now, I don't know how good this Pokemon actually will be, but in the hands of Sid, definitely going to be a frightening Pokemon to face. Obviously, this Pokemon has pretty high offensive stats, and even though it has a mediocre speed, it can make up for it with the Speed Boost ability. But then we see the rest of his team, and the rest of his team is very bulky, I would say. Like, you have the Hippo, the Milo, the Mandibuzz, and even sometimes Scizor, which kind of just like sit there and wall things. They're not really known for their offensive presence, but rather for their bulk, which is very interesting to see Sid take on this type of a team, as he usually plays a lot more offensively, a lot more, I don't know, gimmicky. But yeah, very interesting there, and he has the Gardevoir as well with its new coverage moves from Legends Arceus, as well as, of course, Recover. Yeah, overall, I would say this is a pretty good team, as he has all the hazard support he needs. I mean, only Rock or Hippowdon, but I guess if Hippowdon comes, it's always running rocks anyways. He has Spikes and T-Spikes with Roselia, as well as being able to remove the T-Spikes with Roselia and with Mandibuzz and Scizor as defog support. Yeah, I mean, these Pokemon honestly seem a bit passive. Like, this team seems a bit passive. I mean, like, usually having bulk in Draft League is going to be helpful. Like, you can run bulky offensive teams, and those tend to do the best. But this might be leaning a little more on the bulky side, which, again, perfectly fine. I just look forward to seeing what Sid can do with these Pokemon. Yeah, I mean, just looking at other things, he has good knockoff support. He has, I would say he has good speed tiers. Got the base 100 covered, base 110s covered. I guess one thing is that Kyurem Black can run like Adaman or Modest versus this team. But yeah, I mean, this is a very solid team to start us off. And at least for now, he will be first. And yeah, actually, let's do an interview. Sid, are you here with us today? Perhaps. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what you were thinking when you drafted this team?
So basically, Blaziken was on board, so I picked it.
Okay.
And then round 2, I needed a steel type, and I think the only steel types left on the board were like Melmetal, Scizor, and some garbage on like 3rd pick. So I was like, you know what? Scizor sucks. It's a terrible Pokemon. It's never done anything in its existence.
So true.
Melmetal.
Okay. So
I
true.
was kind of forced to take that one. And then I just saw Hippo there, and I'm like, I need a ground type. There's a Hippowdon. And after what a certain other person did later, it is the best option on board.
I think somehow you managed to snipe multiple people with that Hippowdon.
I mean, it's a Hippowdon. Everyone wants it.
Fair enough.
And then I was looking for the water type. I think every single person took the water type before me somehow. Like, everyone got it by round 3, so I was like, the only options left are like, I don't know, Seismitoad and Milotic. So I don't like Milotic. I think it's terrible, but I was kind of forced into it because it was the last water left on the board.
Fair enough.
And then I just took Gardevoir Mega because I saw Adrian saying it was a terrible Pokemon, and I wanted to prove it's actually really good. And
the spite pick.
Then the last 4 were just sort of, these are the only good Pokemon left on board. I just took Mandibuzz because I needed a ground resist.
Yep.
The last flying type that's viable there. Raikou, I wanted a fast Pokemon because the only speed on this team right now is Blaziken with Speed Boost.
Yes, so, fake speed.
And again, after what a certain other person did here, the electric type actually looked kind of good versus every draft on the board. And Hoopa, I knew I was going to take Roselia, so I just like, it's either Hoopa or some 6-pointer followed by 1-pointer. Hoopa seems slightly better. Double Psychic is very strong.
Yeah,
and
fair enough.
All of these guys, I feel, could have some serious support with Wobbuffet. So
yes, everything is built around the Wobbuffet. Love to see it.
It will kill all 6 Pokemon one day, I swear.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to sweep someone with Wobbuffet, even if I have to rig the game.
Very cool. I mean, yeah, you've got yourself a solid team. Hope to see you do well. And more importantly, hope to see you do some funny things.
But also, you called my team passive?
Yes.
You are going to soon realize what a mistake that was.
Oh boy.
These guys learned some funny moves.
Yes, I look forward to seeing it. Alright, yeah, we can move on to Christian. It looks like he is not with us right now, so maybe if he joins later, I can talk to him. But yeah, he is back, and he has elected to take Diancie Mega first round. So I thought this was a very interesting pick, since there was still a bunch of broken Pokemon left on the board, and he elected to take Diancie Mega. So he's kind of going for a more balanced team here, which I can respect that. But yeah, he starts out with Diancie, Slowbro, Hydreigon, which that's definitely a very solid top 3. Hydreigon, always like a good Pokemon in Draft League, can run a lot of sets. Diancie is basically impossible to wall. This Pokemon gets Moonblast, Earth Power, Diamond Storm, Power Gem, Mystical Fire. Basically, you're not going to find a switch in for it. And then he supports that with Teleport Slowbro, so some free momentum there. Definitely a very solid top 3. Then he grabs Melmetal, which I guess, like, as Sid said, at this point, there was not that many steals left. And, I mean, I can kind of see Melmetal putting in work on this team. He has, like, a Slowbro to kind of teleport out on whatever thing, and then bring in Melmetal for free, or Hydreigon to U-turn on the fairies. that would frequently come in on it, and then bring in Melmetal for free. So yeah, definitely some potential for this Pokemon to put in work. But the problem with Melmetal as your steal, or at least one of the main problems, is that you're going to be missing a rocker, basically. And that's definitely going to be something that can hurt your draft, but we see that Christian later on picks up Stunfisk, as well as having the Mega Diancie, which can both very reliably set up rocks. So I feel like this is not a terrible issue for his team. Decidueye, we saw Sid actually show how potent this Pokemon can be. So interested to see how Christian will use it. Later on he grabs Cryogonal, which for some reason half the draft board was looking at this Pokemon when it's not even good. Like, this Pokemon cannot do anything to any steel type, even like the worst of them. So I mean, I guess it's like some hazard control, but honestly I feel like this Pokemon is never going to come, and if it does, it's just going to do nothing. But beyond that, the rest of his team is very solid. Like Mienshao, I like this pick. Forms a nice regen core with a Slowbro. Gets knockoff. Very good since like his dark type doesn't get it. And yeah, I mean, honestly, just generally a pretty good Pokemon. He also picked up Scolipede, which this is his grounded poison, as well as his fastest mon, I guess. Honestly, I feel like Scolipede is a little slept on in draft. Like, in the recent DPL, my team drafted a Scolipede, and we did very well with it. This Pokemon can obviously just like SD sweep any team, or it can just serve as spike support. So yeah, pretty good pickup, I would say. And then Colossal, I honestly like Colossal a lot as well, just for being able to be another rocker, another hazard control mon, as well as getting up spikes. So overall, I would say Christian's team is probably the most stacked team in terms of his hazard game. Like, he has T-spikes, spikes, multiple rockers, and multiple forms of hazard control, including magic bounce. So his opponent's definitely going to be thinking twice about clicking rocks against him. Yeah, overall, this is just a very strong team. And yeah, I mean, I guess I would say it is possibly a bit fighting weak. Like, any fighting that can muscle past Slowbro perhaps is going to give him a bit of trouble. But I think that's probably to be expected. So for now, yeah, I think for now I'm just going to put him in like the same category as Sid's team. Like, the way I'm going to do these rankings is just like taking a look at all of the teams on the board. It's going to be way harder to rank them than it was last season. I feel like last season it was very clear that there were like maybe 2 or 3 teams that were by far the best teams. Some teams where you could tell like it was people's first time playing, or they were just drafting for fun. And then even the teams in the middle were a little easier to sort out. I think this time there's like half of the teams that are in the solidly good but not the best category, and then the other half of the teams that are just like below that. So yes, this is going to be the start of the solidly good category. And in the end, I'll probably nitpick at the details to sort things out. But yeah, next up we have Sunny coaching the Tarnished Hisuians. Now, the first thing that I want to point out is that despite being the Tarnished Hisuians, Sunny did not draft a single Hisuian Pokemon. Not even a Sinnoh one, so shame on you for that. But hey, it's not your turn to speak yet. Okay. Yeah, Sunny actually made an interesting decision of franchising Salazzle from the last season. Now, I know why he did this. It's because this Pokemon put in a lot of work for him during the gym challenge that we had, so kudos to him for that. But yeah, he starts off with Salazzle, and then the first Pokemon that he actually drafts is the Ash Greninja. Now, of course, Greninja itself is already a fantastic Pokemon in draft, being able to run a variety of different coverage options, having access to momentum, having access to both spikes and T-spikes, probably the hugest factor, as well as being able to run like mixed sets or physical sets. Just overall a very versatile Pokemon. And then, on top of that, you add the fact that if you get a kill, this thing basically gains like 1 billion special attack and speed. It's just, yeah, overall a very good Pokemon, and I'm interested to see how it will perform in this season. So, beyond Ash Gren, Sunny picked up Ferrothorn, which I think this was a great pickup, since Ash Gren is going to be wanting to get those kills to put it into its Ash form. And how you can better make sure that happens is by laying up hazards, right? So that when your opponents switch around, their Pokemon are at less HP, and that makes them easier for Ash Gren to kill. And Ferrothorn is honestly one of the best hazard supporters out there. It's got rocks, it's got spikes, it can even knock off opposing boots and leech seed them to further cripple their Pokemon. So, good pickup here. And looking at the rest of his team, this is just a trend that I've noticed from Sunny, right? Is that both with his last season team and this season team, he's just got like a shit ton of super fast Pokemon for seemingly no reason. Yeah, he's picked up Salazzle, Ashgren, Zeraora, Whimsicott, and Mega Sceptile, all, or, well, most of them, very frightening Pokemon in their own right. But yeah, I think my issue with this team, or yeah, my criticism of this team, is that the defensive backbone is entirely carried by Ferrothorn and Crocodile. So outside of that, he's just got a bunch of very fast but very frail attackers. So Sunny might be having a hard time on the defensive front and might have to elect for running a very fast-paced offensive team pretty much every week. And yeah, looking at this team, he's got the, like, looking at the details, he's got like the grounded poison covered. He has solid dark types to fend off those scary ghosts and psychics. He's got like good knockoff support. I would say that one thing is that this Pokemon is, or this team is pretty weak to fighting type Pokemon, with the answers being basically just the Whimsicott and the Galar Zapdos, which, oh, and Salazzle, which those are not real fighting resist, as well as Ashgren being the only water type. Not having a bulky water means that your team is automatically opened up to offensive fire types. You know, this team just gets V graded for sure, or like Charizard Y Flamethrower. It opens you up to offensive ice types, which, yeah, definitely this team looks very weak to, as well as other water types, which, to be fair, Sunny has like 3 grass types to make up for that. But yeah, I mean, if someone drafted Rain, which no one did, maybe that would be a bit of an issue for him. Otherwise though, definitely a team full of threats. Each of these Pokemon can do a lot of different things, which is super cool. And now, I think it's time we hear from the man himself. Sunny, could you tell us a little bit about what you were thinking when drafting this team?
Hello.
Hello.
My main priority, I really wanted speed. Like you said, it was a trend for me, and I just love fast Pokemon. So
Yes.
for me, I really like this, even though I know my team is very weak on the defensive side compared to my last team last season when I have bulky Pokemon but slow. But
Yeah.
now I just want offensive Glass. Or not, well, technically Glass, because mostly Pokemon can get one-shotted on the right conditions, but I do have walls, which is why Ferrothorn is one of the main reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know if you know what type Null, how good defensively it could be, but...
Yes, it can be very good defensively, but I'm not convinced that that Pokemon is going to come to every single game. I mean...
No.
Yeah?
Well. But, and also, Whimsicott, I forgot how much status moves that thing could learn.
It gets a ton of status moves and Prankster on top of that.
Yes, which is why I really wanted it.
Fair enough.
And by the way, since now I can speak on it.
Yes.
Yeah, all of us did not agree to put Hisuian Pokemon on here, so you can blame the rest of the draft league for that.
Okay, fair enough. But you did not pick any Pokemon that appear in Hisui either.
Hey, all the good ones got drafted, okay?
Okay.
Your logo is a Mega Garchomp, and that Pokemon is still on the board.
That's not a Mega Garchomp.
Wait, it is. It is though.
No, it's not.
Bro.
It's a warrior in Garchomp armor.
Bro, all I'm saying is you could have had the mascot pick.
Yeah, but when there's Aspir Ninja on the board, come on, and I was second pick. Come on, I could not pass that up.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, hope the Ashgren does great things for you this season.
I hope so too.
All right. And yeah, I guess we can move on to Proj. So, looks like Proj is not here with us today either. But okay, yeah, just looking at Proj's team, it seems like he took inspiration from a certain someone from last season. Hint, hint, it's random. But yes, he drafted essentially a team of 6 Pokemon with 3 like shitters thrown on the end. Although to be fair, his selection of shitters was very good. Besides that though, yeah, looking at his team, his first pick was actually his franchise pick from last season. So last season he ended up with Deoxys Speed because he did a sort of pseudo trade with Random. But it ended up being so terrible that we dropped it down 2 points. And yet despite that, Proj decides to franchise it for 22 points because of the franchise cost. And now we have the most expensive Deoxys Speed in history. Was it worth it? I mean, I'd say probably not, but maybe he can prove me wrong, right? So obviously he has Deoxys Speed with a blistering speed stat, a variety of interesting setup options, as well as pretty much all the hazards. Then he picked Lando T, the Scourge of Smogon OU, Kyurem Black, obviously a super frightening Pokemon in draft. He got Aegislash, Greninja, and Buzzwole. So this is pretty much going to be the 6 that he always brings, I think. And just as with Sunny, right, his only water type is Greninja and Slowpoke. So unless he brings Slowpoke, then this team is getting destroyed by, or like literally cooked by any offensive fire type. As well as any water type with coverage, honestly, which is pretty much most of them. And yeah, honestly, like, for a 6 Pokemon team, this team is not as scary as it could be. Like Random's team from last season, it was all, I would say, good Pokemon. It was like Torntea, Mega Garchomp, Victini, Feeny, Skarmory, and like something else that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. In comparison, Praj's team, he has Dio Speed, which has shown to be a dead weight, unless he can make it work this season. Landorus T, which, I mean, yeah, it's always good. Kyurem Black, yeah, it's always good. Aegislash, this Pokemon has not been good for a long time. Sword and Shield really did him dirty. Greninja, I mean, yes, it's good, but also, it's not going to serve as a water type defensively for his team very well. And Buzzwole, honestly, I'm personally not a huge fan of this Pokemon. It's a great fighting type check and a fantastic ground check, but outside of that, it kind of leaves something to be desired. Like, yeah, I don't know if this is the greatest team. And on top of that, he did not draft a Mega, which I feel like a Mega is always going to be a free addition to a team. It's just a huge stat boost, so yeah, it literally pads your numbers, and that's always good. Although, to be fair, Praj already did some number padding of his own by drafting these 6 behemoths. But yeah, again, I feel like this team has a lot of scary offensive Pokemon, not a whole lot of defensive backbone, and just like with Random, it's going to end up being very predictable what he brings in each game. So, with that being said, actually, I forgot to rank the last teams. I would probably put Praj and Sunny's team around the same level. I think for now I'll go with Praj and then Sunny. And then, yeah, next up we have Simon. So, Simon, he had the first pick of the draft, and of course, his eyes were set on the most broken Pokemon on the board, Naganadel. So, even without Nasty Plot, even without Z-moves, I was pretty sure that this Pokemon was going to be able to put in a lot of work. I mean, it's a poison type that isn't completely walled by steel types. It's also a dragon type that's not completely walled by steel types, and even scares out like every single fairy type. So that in itself is already really scary. And then on top of that, it gets, you know, blistering high speed, really high special attack, and even random moves like Toxic Spikes and U-Turn. So, really good Pokemon. And, oh yeah, Beast Boost. This Pokemon can kill something, get a speed boost, and then sweep the team. Or it can run Specs, or it can run Scarf. Or, yeah, Scarf Beast Boost. That thing can easily snowball. And then after that, he got Celesteela and Toxapex. Honestly, not sure how to feel about these two picks. Toxapex obviously providing the role of a bulky water, giving some key resistances to things that Naganadel would not like, and Celesteela as well, helping with the ground types mostly. But yeah, Celesteela is fairly solid in draft. It can run a lot of things like bulky Leech Seed, Atotomize, Sweeper. I do feel like it's fallen off a little bit. Toxapex, I've never been a fan of Toxapex in draft. Just being completely honest, this Pokemon is really passive and can easily be taken advantage of, but I do get why Simon wanted to pick it up. And then he drafts Mega Medicham, which this is absolutely terrifying. in conjunction with Naganadel, I feel like this was a very good pick. You know, just like pressuring those bulky psychics really hard, which, I don't know, things like Ryu Nicholas, for example, might be able to take on Naganadel, but definitely not after taking a heavy hit from Mega Medicham. Then he picks up a Sand Core of Tyranitar and Dracozolt. So, I'm not a fan of Tyranitar. I don't think it's very good, but I guess Simon is like living up to the TSS name, picking up the sand. Yeah, obviously Tyranitar gives him a rocker, gives him a dark type, as before this team was very squishy versus ghosts and also psychics. So definitely giving him some key resistances there. And Dracozolt, I actually kind of like this pick. I think it gives him a lot more offensive presence, gives him another sweeper potentially under sand. Yeah, pretty cool synergies here. I think my main gripes with this team would be, number one is ground type Claydol. Claydol, this Pokemon sucks. And to have that be your main ground type is just like, that just seems super sus to me. Like, I don't think you're going to bring this to most games, and then your opponents would just be able to Volt Switch all over your team. Especially with the Celesteela and the Toxapex there, it just seems way too free for the opponent to take advantage of that. Other things, yeah, like I mentioned, Toxapex, not a fan. Tyranitar, not a fan. But this team isn't bad by any means. And I do think it's funny that Simon kind of picked up like half the Naganadel answers by himself so that nobody else can have them. But yeah, I mean, I think Simon is here right now, so if you are, do you want to talk about your team?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Nag was like a sure pick. If you go first to the draft with Naganadel, you kind of have to.
Yup.
It's right there.
Yup, love that guy.
Then Celesteela Peck, so mostly grabbing at least switch-ins for Nag's, well, as you said, Nag's weaknesses. So Celesteela's more of a ground switch-in. It also kind of covers ice, and then Pex also covers ice, and Celesteela also covers psychic. So for the most part, I have at least one response to my opponent brought bulky psychic type and whatnot. But and then what you said about the psychic type, I realized Mega Lopunny, which is what I chose last time. I'm not sure if it was picked at this point. While I like it for being fast and hitting kind of hard, it was also pretty well established earlier that it just doesn't kill things. Like Lopunny, Mega Lopunny is your best option to switch in, do 60 to something, and then die. So
fair enough.
I wanted something that could really still had a bit of speed and was also fighting, because strong fighting type is pretty necessary. So Medicham. Going on down to T-Tar, I like having sand just because I had plans after that to get stuff that was immune to it and work with it, but also just rocker plus psychic switch-in / ghost switch-in plus potential Dragon Dance whatnot, plus even special bulky wall. T-Tar's just versatile and gives me options later into the draft, which is what I really liked. And you also said that Claydol was a pick you didn't like. I really like Claydol just because it's a spinner to add to, I think, something else in this team. Has some hazards clearing, but I don't remember where I put it. But it's a spinner, Volt Switch immune, potentially bulky psychic, levitate, so it's also a ground switch in. It's honestly just a little bit of everything. It's a setter and a spinner and a ground immune and a psychic resist and just rolling forwards. Dracozolt makes my sand terrifying because suddenly Volt Beak.
Yup.
And then I'm just gonna skip Scorch for now, but Darm I really liked, and just because like again another hard hitter that can capitalize on potential teams, as you were saying earlier, that don't have
they don't have a fire switching.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like if this team gets a V created and they all die, I'm assuming that, you know, like Flare Blitz Darm also does the same thing. And then Scorch, I just honestly wanted a fire that wasn't ground weak so that I can maybe put some defensive utility onto that and just kind of do stuff with it. Just a fire type that doesn't also lose to Earthquake, because I can tell that my team, just by design of Nag Pex, is going to have some issues with ground types, so I wanted...
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, a multitude of responses. I played this draft very typing based.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I think just going off of that logic, you've ended up with a pretty solid team. Again, though, I just feel like the Claydol will be like the crux of your issues there, because like you said, it's a bit of everything, but the problem is it's not very good at any of them. It's not Gen 3 anymore. Power creep has caught up to this guy.
Well, then, I guess I gotta be the one that brings it back.
Let's go!
Claydol sweep.
It's Claydol season. Alright, well, thank you, Simon. Like I said, Noggin and Dell, super awesome. Hope you do him justice, and I wish you the best of luck in this season. Alright, and now I guess we move on to Broken Motor and the sus Sableyes. Now, Broken Motor, of course, this guy, he was known for being the Urshifu dude from last season. And here he is without an Urshifu. But instead, he picks up Genesect. And Genesect, I mean, first of all, it's kind of like his mascot. I mean, look, Sableye, Genesect, it's like, looks like the same Pokemon. And also, it has a motor, so definitely fits. Yes. But Genesect was, like, going into the draft, probably the Pokemon that was the most uncertain of where it should be placed on the draft board. I felt like this Pokemon could, especially with the restrictions that we put on it, no shift gear, no other items besides drives, I felt like this Pokemon could either do absolutely nothing, or it could be like the most broken Pokemon on the board. And I think it definitely fell into the right hands to make it the most broken Pokemon on the board. Broken Motor, this guy, I feel like he can do some real creative builds with Genesect this season. And with his second pick, he picks up Gliscor. I actually like this pick a lot. I feel like it forms a very nice, natural defensive core with Genesect. Like, just both of them having the times for weakness, but obviously not being overlapping, as well as Gliscor being able to take like ground and fighting moves that Genesect might not appreciate. And then he backs it up with Primarina. So Primarina, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I feel like obviously with Genesect and Gliscor, you definitely did want a bulky water type because, like, yeah, I mentioned it was a good core, but there are some clear holes in there. And the holes would be like fire types, right? Ice types for Gliscor, and water types for like both of them. They can both get like kind of washed, right? And a bulky water would obviously cover all three of those. But this man picks up Primarina, which I feel like Primarina is kind of both a fake water and a fake fairy. It's not a bad Pokemon, but it doesn't really fulfill the roles that you would want out of like a traditional bulky pick, it's just kind of there, and it's kind of like offensive. So right away this draft seems a little interesting. And then he's picked up the Rotom Heat, which I think this was a pretty good pickup. Zarude, definitely interesting Pokemon. I think originally this was like Moltres Galar, but then he dropped it during Grace. Alakazam providing some nice speed for this team. Then he picks up Altaria Mega. So we saw Ray do pretty good with his Pokemon last season. We'll see if Motor can replicate it. And then he picks up like some random last 3 Pokemon. If you know me, you know that I am one of the biggest Cobalion haters out there. This Pokemon, I don't think it's good. It's just like a fake Steel type, and I don't know, like the best that you can get out of it is like a Rocks and then SD into close combat. And it just doesn't function as a Steel type, which I guess like Genesect doesn't really either, so he does not really have like that defensive backbone there. And yeah, overall looking at this team, it just feels like a bunch of jank Pokemon. That's like my description. He has a lot of different setup options. And yeah, I feel like he's just going to throw like some random setup on his team every single week and then try to break through his opponent, which that might honestly work since all of these Pokemon individually are pretty they're able to force prep out of the opponent, for sure. And he did end up like FAing these lower picks, but I'm not going to talk about that since this is just the recap of the initial draft. Looking at the rest, or looking at the other details of his team, I think the speed tiers are pretty good. Like, the base 100s are definitely not going to want to run a offense boosting nature over a speed boosting nature when Genesect is right there, Gliscor is right there. Like stuff like Lottie or base 110s, they're probably not going to run a modest nature either. One thing that I will say is that his knockoff options are kind of jank. Like, this is what I realized, like, when he brought it up to me, actually, is that his one, like, actual knockoff Pokemon is Gliscor. I mean, there's Alakazam too, but I don't know how often that actually wants to run it. And yeah, besides that, I think this team looks pretty good. There's, like, no grounded poison, but half of his Pokemon are immune anyways. Zarude might run Boots. Primarina, it would definitely affect Primarina. Alakazam, this guy is a Magic Guard. Altaria, it would affect it after it Megas, but otherwise it wouldn't. Overall, yeah, it's kind of a strange team, but I would say it's a good one. Let's see. Is he here with us today? Broken Motor. Looks like he is not. And to update these rankings, I think for now I'll put Simon's team over here, and I'm honestly completely unsure where to put the sus Sableyes, as mentioned before. Yeah, I'm kind of really not sure what this team is capable of. I guess we'll see. But moving on to the Sunnyvale Weaviles, coached by Kyra. This team, I feel like, is pretty much just the same exact team as her last season team, but maybe a strict upgrade. Or Actually, I don't think I can call it a strict upgrade. More like a side grade. But I do think it's probably better than her last season team. It's kind of missing out on the extra setup spam, I would say. But it makes up for it with a lot more pivoting options and, I guess, general speed and power. So, Kyra takes the most expensive Weavile in the history of Weaviles by franchising the Weavile from last season for a total of 22 points. And then, for her round 1 pick, she picks Tapu Koko. So, I thought this was an interesting start. Maybe not the best one, because you kind of have like 2 fast, frail attackers there, without really a defensive backbone to support it. But then I think she more than makes up for this with her next few picks, which are exactly like that defensive backbone which she needed. So she takes Slowking again, and this time actually grabs a pretty solid steal in Corviknight, which is definitely going to like help patch up a lot of those holes which she had in her last season's team. She takes Gligar, like literally the Gliscor from last season, but downgraded. Gligar, I don't know how I feel about this Pokemon. Like, it's definitely, obviously very vulnerable to knockoff. And it's pretty much always going to be, yeah, just holding that Eviolite unless you want to run, like the occasional random Yachi or Scarf or whatever. But yeah, pretty much always going to not want its Eviolite to be knocked off. But it does get her first rocker, so that's good. Then she grabs Infernape, which I think this was F8 for actually, but I feel like this pick really brings the team together. It provides some well-needed, another well-needed option for offense on top of Tapu Koko and Weavile, and yeah, again, gives a lot more momentum for this team. This team is literally just U-turn spam, Volt Switch spam into like Weavile or Infernape and hope it kills something, which, I mean, it works out pretty well. It has worked out pretty well in the past. And then she actually grabs Mega Venusaur again, which I was a little surprised by. I'm not gonna lie. I think last season it was definitely both overpriced and underperformed. So I wasn't sure if Kyra would want to use it again, but I guess she did, and she picks it up. I mean, yeah, this Pokemon does have Earth Power now, so I feel the need to mention that every single time, because otherwise it looks like this Pokemon is walled by steals. But yeah, maybe Kyra can do some more good with this Pokemon this season. And then the last 3 picks, I thought were kind of random. Well, actually, the Raichu Alola makes a lot of sense, but the Rotom, don't get me wrong, Rotom's a good Pokemon, but I wasn't sure if it was needed on this team. But at the same time, I wasn't sure like what else this team even needs. Like, just the top 7 is pretty much already a good draft. The Raichu Alola, obviously under electric terrain, it doubles its speed, so that gives her another solid win con. I guess like without the Hawlucha this season, she has a different terrain sweeper. And then the Trapinch, honestly, I don't know why this got picked up, but I respect it. This Pokemon is awesome. Like, don't listen to what anyone else says. This Pokemon is so good. It can trap an Oko Weavile, so I guess she took it for preventative measures. But yeah, I mean, looking at this team, the other details to look at, I would say, I mean, obviously she gets like pretty much the best knockoff user in the game. The rockers are a little bit sus. I don't know if Gligar comes to every single game, but if it does, it's running rocks. Infernape can rock, but if it rather run like a choice set, maybe you'll have a tough time fitting rocks. She has a solid defogger. Obviously, with the high speed Pokemon here, the speed tiers aren't terrible. And yeah, Rotom having the base 90 speed also helps for possibly deterring things like, I don't know, what's a base 90, 95, or some random Pokemon from running Modest or whatever. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think this team is pretty good. Kyra, if you're here, would you like to tell us a little bit about the drafting process?
Sure, I can do that. So, let's see, let's start with the mascot pick. People are saying, oh, if you don't pick it the first round, you lose your right to get mad if I get sniped. So I picked Weavile. I probably should have. Maybe I could have franchised something that cost less, but I don't see the draft working out in a way that any of my picks would have been around. Like, if I waited another... I know Coco wouldn't have been around in the next round. Corviknight wouldn't have, and people were complaining when I crafted Slowking.
Oh yeah, you sniped everyone.
Yeah, and then I think someone was considering getting Gligar, so I'm like,
interesting.
Well, good thing I got it first. Venusaur was really there to patch holes because this team runs very physical. And so I guess Venusaur doesn't exactly fit the momentum-based draft, but I mean, I needed a bunch of things that I didn't have. And I guess Rotom just for the ghost type, that's not weak to certain things. Oh yeah, the trap bench, I was just going to go point and laugh at JS for not taking it. Because it was extensively discussed before, and I'm like, You have 2 extra points. Yeah, so, okay, Infernape and LOL and then Raichu were, I picked them up, but I had Mienshao and Incineroar before, and I was like, I don't have a good fire type. If I get rid of Mienshao and Incineroar, I have enough points for a good fire type.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my team.
Yeah, I mean, seems like you picked a pretty good team, I would say. So, yeah, even with the 5-point deficit from the Weavile, I mean, come on, let's be honest. What are you gonna do with 5 points? Like, you could get and you're missing out on an Ambipom right there.
I could have got it some higher things if I ditched, Rotom.
Yeah, you could think of it also as like the difference between, I don't know, Mega Medicham and Haxorus, and all of a sudden that seems pretty significant. But yeah, I think you did a good job, and I look forward to seeing what you can do with this team this season. Yeah, moving on, we have Namu coaching the Zenith. So Namu, he decided to round 1 the Torrentee, which pretty standard, honestly. Torrentee is just like a broken Pokemon. Like, it does everything, and it does everything well. It can be a setup sweeper, it can be just knock and U-turn spam, which is what it does in like 90% of games. As Regenerator, of course, so it can just come in on hits and heal them right back off. As Boots, so it doesn't take rocks damage, and a lot of coverage options, so just very good Pokemon. And of course, rocking the fantastic 121 speed tier. And with his second pick, he actually picks up Galarian Darmanitan. So I guess this is his mascot pick. Very interesting that he round 2's it, but honestly kind of fair, as I think Boo picked this up last season pretty early as well. And yeah, I mean, obviously everyone knows what this Pokemon does. You have like the built-in Choice Band, and on top of that, you can run another Choice Band, and then it just kills things. Or you can run a Choice Scarf, and then it has essentially a free Dragon Dance there. You can like just pivot around, U-turn, click Icicle, Crash, kill things. Obviously, this Pokemon is very susceptible though to rocks and Rocky Helmet. So your opponent, they get up rocks, they switch into their bulky water with a helmet equipped, and all of a sudden your Darmanitan is at like half health. But he does have the Tornadus T, which another one of its many hats is that it can be excellent defog support. So maybe that's how he plans on using it, where he just has like the powerful Darm and the Torn to support it. And next up, he gets even more power. He grabs the Tapu Lele. I mean, yeah, Tapu Lele was famed in Sun and Moon Draft for having literally 0 switch-ins, and was subsequently banned from pretty much every single draft league. Now in Gen 7, with the lack of Z-moves and the nerf of Psychic Terrain, obviously this Pokemon is not as broken as it once was, but still, this thing hits like insanely hard. And on top of that, it's a Psychic type attacker that is not walled by Dark types. In fact, I would say most Dark types would be very hesitant to come in on this Pokemon's Moon Blast and Focus Blast and whatnot. So already a very scary team offensively. And next up, yes, so Namu was actually going to pick Heatran here, but it got sniped. So instead, he picks up Magnezone, and I think this was not a good pickup. Magnezone is a fake steal. Simon, I know you're gonna unmute. Don't say anything. Magnezone is a fake steal because this Pokemon, it just doesn't tank hits well. It doesn't get rocks. It's 4 times weak to Earthquake. You know, it's not going to serve the defensive role that Namu's team clearly needs it to serve, because he picked no other steel type. And next up, he also picked Quagsire, which, just like Magnezone is a fake steel, Quagsire is a fake water and a fake ground. This Pokemon is just like, it's very weak stat-wise. It doesn't have really anything to do once it's in besides Toxic and Scald, so that makes it very passive. And yeah, honestly, like, it's also like a water type that doesn't beat ice types, which, considering that Magnezone is the steel, that might actually matter for this team. Yeah, overall, I'm just not a fan of these two picks, because they don't really serve the role that you want them to serve. Obviously, Quagsire is good for different reasons, like having Unaware to stop setup sweepers, or quote-unquote stop setup sweepers, as well as Water Absorb to stop like Dracovish. But otherwise, I would say this Pokemon is just like, I don't know, not good. He did save the rest of the league by picking up Quagsire, though, for reasons that I will elaborate upon further. But yeah, looking at the rest of his team, though, he has Moltres Galar, always a very, very scary setup threat. Urshifu Rapid, basically Urshifu Single, except it's a water type, so it's not as good. But yeah, this Pokemon can still be very, very threatening offensively, as we saw from Jesus' team last season. We have Beedrill Mega, so Namu also is kind of going in on this whole Volt Turn type of build, with a Beedrill, with a Darm, but this just compounds upon his hazard weakness, and with his one like reliable defogger being Torn T, that's kind of forcing Torn T into this role of always removing the rocks so that his other team members can actually do something. And I feel like that's really bad because it limits the potentials of Torn T as well as the rest of this team. But yeah, like that point aside, Mega Beedrill is still a fantastic Pokemon. Hits really hard and is really fast. But yeah, I think that's just one issue that I can point out right away. And lastly, he grabbed Ryu Nicholas, which I think it's a cool pick. Definitely helps with, I guess, fighting types, because Tapu Lele is kind of a fake fighting resist. Torn T is a good fighting resist, but Ryu Nicholas just really makes it way more solid against Pokemon like Mega Medicham, for example. Yeah, and I guess it could potentially form a nice regen core with Torn T, though I imagine most weeks it would probably run Magic Guard. Yeah, I mean, overall this team is kind of jank, I feel. He's got a lot of offensive threats, but they're pretty easily crippled, and he doesn't have a lot of good support on the defensive end. Oh, and also this team has no rocks. What the fuck? This team has no rocks. Yeah, that's just a problem when your Steel is Magnezone and your Ground is Quagsire. This team has no rocks. Yeah, honestly, not Namu's best work in my opinion, but it can still definitely put in a lot of work since it is extremely scary offensively. And yeah, I guess we can go back to the rankings for a little bit. So where would I put Namu's team? Actually, I guess like first we can put Kyra's team. I'd probably put it somewhere in this category for now. And then Namu's team, I would probably put below Simon's team. Alright, yes, before we move on, I'm actually going to take a break here to go to the bathroom, but hope everyone is enjoying the recap so far. Alright, I'm back from my bathroom break. Someone said it was halftime. Now, yeah, I guess halftime is over. So, if you're watching the recording, obviously nothing happened, but it is time to move on to Boo coaching the hair accessories. And apparently he posted the source for this image, and it was the Genshin Impact girl. I couldn't tell because it was wearing some weird hair accessory. But yes, Boo drafted, as you can see here, he drafted Mono Ground plus 2 non-Mono Grounds. Wow, who could have seen this coming? Yes, so he round 1 Landorus Incarnate. Obviously, Landorus Incarnate is absolutely terrifying, with sheer force boosted Earth Powers, Sludge Waves, Psychics, Rock Slides, as well as Knockoff U-Turn and Stealth Rock. This Pokemon is really good. Last season, Banana Thief used it. Honestly, I don't think he used it that great, but it still did him some good, I think. And next up, he drafts Zygarde 50, so this was already where I was starting to get suspicious. You know, he drafted 2 times for Ice Weeks. I was like, okay, this has to be a meme, right? Well, Zygarde 50 on its own is like alright, I suppose. I mean, it did carry Namu like the entire way to the championship last season, and it did end up being the #1 Pokemon on the kill leaderboard. But we also saw last season how this Pokemon could be stopped, so definitely not an unstoppable behemoth, but at the same time, obviously very, very hard to prep for with its variety of different sets. It could run like Subcoil, could run 1,000 Arrows, obviously ignoring the flying immunes. It could even run 1,000 Waves to trap Pokemon. Having access to Dragon Dance, having access to Glare. This Pokemon definitely has quite a few things it can do. And I guess one of the perks of drafting Mono Ground is that you don't care that Zygarde doesn't get rocks, because every single other Pokemon on the team does. So yeah, that's the first 2 picks. Then he drafts Excadrill. I bet he was probably hoping for a Hippowdon here, so that he could actually run this Excadrill in Sand, but alas, it was not meant to be. I mean, even without Sand, Excadrill provides some pretty good support with, you know, Rocks and Spin. And the fact that it's going to be running Mold Breaker pretty much all the time, I think, is, yeah, paired with Zygarde is pretty good for, like, a mono ground team in general, because that's 2 Pokemon that don't care about Levitators when spamming their ground moves. This also gives him his Steel type, I suppose. Like, I don't know. I guess it could kind of barely deal with some Ice types. And next up, he drafted Nidoking, aka Mr. Broken. This Pokemon, obviously very OP. It's basically just like a mini Landorus in what it does. Yeah, having coverage for everything, having Sheer Force boost on all its moves. Very good Pokemon. Seismitoad, also extremely broken Pokemon. This Pokemon gets like all the good moves in the game. Scald, Earthquake, Knockoff, Stealth Rocks, you name it, it gets the moves. And it also provides him a crucial water immunity, which if you ignore the Seismitoad, you'll notice that the rest of his team gets washed by any offensive water type, because it's mono ground. So yeah, definitely very important for him to pick up a water absorb Pokemon. It's just a shame that there's no Sap Sipper grounds or, you know, Ice absorb grounds. And yes, we'll talk a little bit more about those problems. But looking at the rest of his team, yeah, Steelix Mega, pretty cool Mega in my opinion. This Pokemon is infamous for being able to run Dragon Dance and and sweep teams. Just kidding, but it's pretty good. And then he picks up Palossand and Golurk. I'm honestly not sure why he wanted to grab those Pokemon. I guess it's just like other Mons to fit in with a monoground theme. And Pillow-Swine actually is going to be a very key player in this team, because it's the only Pokemon on the team that has any semblance of an Ice resistance. Yeah, obviously you see this guy next. That guy is another Ice resist, but a fake one. I'm convinced that he only picked this because of how much I made fun of it for seemingly no reason last season. And with his last pick, we see the master plan unveiled. Oh my gosh. This was something that I literally called this in the chat, because I was like, why would you pick mono ground? of all types. And then I realized it's not that he just really hates Volt Switch. It's that he doesn't want anyone else to get them. He doesn't want anyone else to get the ground types so that he can spam Regieleki on his own. But his plan did not really work because, save for one team perhaps, everyone still got a pretty good ground type. I don't know. I thought it was funny though. I respect the thought. But I really would have expected that if you were going with this plan, you would pick up Dugtrio. But yeah, I think just like talking about this team in general, obviously any water type with coverage is going to wreck this team because, or like especially any water type that's faster than his fastest threats, which is Landorus, will wreck this team. Any offensive ice type will absolutely destroy this team. If the Piloswine gets chipped or its Eviolite knocked off, like, I don't know, just don't, you don't have any hope of beating like a Weavile or beating a Kyurem. If any offensive grass types were drafted, like Rillaboom would have like absolutely 6-0'd this team, but it didn't get drafted somehow. Kartana, like a choice banded Kartana, it would destroy this team. But I mean that is all to be expected when you draft a monotype team. That being said though, we do have the man himself with us, I believe. So, you want to talk a little bit about your mono ground? I think you're muted. I can't hear you at all. Hello? I still can't hear you. Can anyone else hear him?
The bubble is lighting up, but he's not saying anything.
Yeah. Well, technical difficulties, I suppose. Okay, let's read the chat in the meantime. Thick fat Mamoswine. That's not Ice Absorb. Oh yes, Ray did want Togedemaru. No worries, I will roast him in due time. Hello, Boo? Yeah, you're still not saying anything. Wait, I could hear you earlier, like, in the call, but for some reason now I just can't hear you. Okay. Alright, I guess, yeah, that's unfortunate, but we'll come back to you. Moving on, we have Adrian coaching the Celestic Celtics. So, Adrian, for some reason, got very inspired by Celtic culture, and of course, being the fan of Cynthia he is, decided to make this his team name. Now, looking at his team, I will say right now, this is literally a Gen 6 draft team. But talking about the actual Pokemon, we have Mew as the first round pick, which is respectable. Mew can now do a lot of things. I mean, considerably more things than it did in Gen 6. It has Dragon Dance, it has random moves that you would never expect, like Flare Blitz, Power Whip, and Poltergeist. And of course, it can still do all the defensive things that it once did as well, with access to every single status, you know, Will-O-Wisp, Toxic, Thunder Wave, Roost, Defog, Stealth Rocks, and now Spikes as well. So, Mew, pretty much always going to be good in Draft League. Maybe not the best, but definitely up there. Then with his second pickup, he grabs Megalopony, and I'm actually a pretty big fan of this pick. I know last season, I guess it didn't do too well on Simon's team, and Simon kind of explained the issues with Lopunny, but it's still like a fairly good Pokemon. A strong fighting type with access to U-turn, and now also with access to a semi-reliable normal stab. So yeah, I would say it's a pretty good first two. But then Adrian grabs Porygon 2 for some reason, and I don't really understand why he grabbed this so early. Like, I can kind of see how it fit on his team, but I feel like this is something you could have saved for later, or you could have just grabbed something straight up better at this point in the draft. But yeah, definitely provides him with a more solid ghost response, as well as a generally bulky Pokemon to kind of alleviate some of the pressure from Mew. So yeah, I can kind of get why he picked it. Then he picked up Keldeo, which, I mean, how many times do I have to say this? This is not Oras anymore. Keldeo is not nearly as good as it once was. And he did already kind of have the Lopunny there, which is that fighting type power. So I wasn't really sure why he thought it was necessary to grab it. But I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a bad pick. And then in this slot used to be Seismitoad, but then he dropped it for Gastrodon. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? You never drop Seismitoad. That guy's broken. But anyways, he dropped it for Gastrodon, which is like, I guess the same thing, but significantly worse. Because, okay, sure, it still has the electric and water immunities, so if that's what he was valuing with his team, then he didn't lose that much. But he did lose a good knockoff user. Like, looking at this team, there's none. He did lose a rocker, which Metagross will probably run rocks every week, so not as big of a loss. But yeah, I don't know. Gastrodon, we saw it being traded around last season. We saw it getting dropped. It's an alright Pokemon, but it's no Seismitoad. And next up, he grabbed Thundurus T, which I am a fan of this pick. I feel like Thundurus T is really slept on in Draft League, especially recently. This Pokemon still has Nasty Plot, it still has Boots, or, I mean, yeah, it now has Boots. It still has plenty of coverage that you can use on like a more offensive set or a more bulky set to break through different teams. So I think this was a not bad pickup on Adrian's side, and as I will also talk about later, it gives him a flying type, which is actually important for this team. And then you picked up Sylveon and Metagross. Or actually, let me just talk about all of these together. This also like really adds to the vibe of like, I don't know, really old looking Pokemon. There's a few of these drafts that like, I think Sid's also is kind of like that, where it's like these Pokemon have not been good in a long time. They're like not terrible, but it just like feels kind of dated. Like Sylveon, it's very predictable what it will do. It throws off Wishes, it throws off Hyper Voices. Maybe it'll run Calm Mind, maybe it'll run Specs, but it's a very standard fairy, and I feel like that could possibly be taken advantage of. Slurpuff, obviously having access to Belly Drum, having access to Webs. I think for a cheap pick, this was not a bad pickup. I don't know that this team would necessarily really need Webs, but it's a nice option to have. It's a nice it's a nice backup fairy to Sylveon, I suppose. And Metagross, I think Metagross actually really rounded out this team. Like, it was in dire need of rocks. It was in dire need of honestly just like a bulky steel type. that can tank a lot of the hits that would be thrown at the other Pokemon. Like, even just like Sludge Waves or Sludge Bombs being thrown at Sylveon, Metagross would be able to eat those up. It'd be able to tank like Hurricanes directed at any of these guys, not Thundurus. Yeah, just things like that, like rock moves or whatever. I think it was a pretty solid addition, but again, Metagross, I feel like, has not been in the spotlight for quite a while. And the last pick, Vileplume. I think overall this was also a good pick, just because he did not have a grounded poison prior, nor did he have a grass type, and this could potentially also help with, I don't know, actually, yeah, his team is already very solid against water types, so I guess it also helps against water types, but not as needed. I guess it could help against some offensive grass types, like the Rillaboom that didn't get drafted. And yeah, providing a grounded poison actually I think is very, very crucial for this team. But to talk once again about this team's weaknesses, I feel like the biggest one is the lack of an Earthquake switch-in, or like even Earth Power. Like his one, he has no ground resistances, first of all, and his one immunity is Thundurus T, which pretty much every single offensive ground type gets coverage to like heavily chip, if not annoy, or if not just like annoy Thundurus T. And he's really going to be relying on Mew and Porygon 2 to just like take neutral hits from those Pokemon. For example, like, I don't know, Nidoking right here, right? Sure, Mew and Porygon 2 are like very standard Nidoking counters, but if he just like gets up a Toxic Spike and there's no Vileplume being brought, then all of a sudden these Pokemon are no longer answers, like Gastrodon 2. So yeah, I think this team is like, just as with his last team from last season, or like every single iteration actually of his last season team, it's a bunch of pretty good Pokemon. Like, none of these Pokemon I would say are terrible, or even bad. Actually, none of these Pokemon are bad. They're all pretty good. A bunch of different Pokemon, so the draft looks good, but the more you look at it, the more holes I can kind of poke in it. And yeah, I think just like the lack of a T-Spike resist, this whole team dies to T-Spike outside of Vileplume, who you're probably not going to bring every game, and the lack of a ground answer are my biggest gripes with this team. I guess also the speed tiers leave something to be desired, since like Kyurem Black can run Modest versus this team, Crocodile can run Adamant versus this team, things like that. But that's a little more minor. All things considered though, it's not a bad team. So I think we have Adrian here with us. Would you like to talk a little bit about your team?
Oh, sure. Well,
Hey.
I like Mew, first of all. It's very good.
It is pretty good.
Like there are a lot of things you can do with it, so I'll see what sort of tricks it can do.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I thought Lopunny, it still had returned, so basically,
Oh.
Stab is very good. That can take out a lot of things. And then a few rounds later, I realized I didn't have it, so
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate, but I mean, you can still run Double Edge and Mega Kick, I guess.
yeah. Also a bit unsure about the other stuff,
I see.
but we'll see. Also, I'm a bit worried about a lot of fairies and psychic mons that probably will give me some trouble, especially against the against the Lopunny and Keldeo, and that's the most offensive attackers.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely agree there, and I think that's another thing that makes the Metagross pickup like that much more crucial in my opinion. That's something that I forgot to mention. So yeah, that definitely makes sense. That you have that concern.
All right.
Any other thoughts about your team?
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Sounds good. We shall see. Yeah, I wish you a good season. And looks like all these goons are talking about Mega Kick in chat. It's a funny move. That's all I have to say. Oh, yeah. I guess I should put some team rankings. Obviously, I'm putting Mono Ground last. I think I justified it fairly well. Like, I didn't just say it's Mono Ground, therefore it's bad. There are like just certain Pokemon that you cannot handle with this team. Though I will say that like a lot of these individual Pokemon, of course, are very good. It's just that there's just too many common threats that can kind of blow through it. And did I put Namu's team. Adrian's team, I guess I'll throw it in like the generally pretty good category for now. And yeah, we can move on to Muad, Mr. Banana Thief. No. Oh.
You are really quiet, but we can hear you.
Oh, Boo is back. Do you want to talk about your team now?
Test.
Hello.
Test.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So, when I was going into this league, I was dead set on drafting Tapu Koko Regieleki because I think Regieleki is a fun Pokemon. And
Okay.
then Tapu Koko got picked
Oh
for
no.
run 1. So then I was thinking about what to do, and I made eye contact with Landorus. I made eye contact
Yes.
with Noel from Genshin Impact, and we kind
What
of reached
the
a
hell?
mutual agreement.
Okay. Very, very interesting turn of events. I guess we all know who to blame for this absolute unit of a draft then. It's Kyra.
Yeah, I would say more about what I was thinking when I was drafting this, but to be honest, I wasn't really.
Yeah, I see. I mean, it still looks like a fun team. Despite all the weaknesses, it looks like a very fun team. So, and I do know that Boo is a very potent player, so he might just be able to pull this off. And yeah, I mean, wish you the best of luck, man.
Thanks, you too.
Yes. Yeah, next up we have Muad, which I think he is not here. Doesn't look like he is, but I'll still talk about his team. So, actually, taking a water break. So, Muad drafted round 1 Dragapult. Definitely makes a lot of sense. This Pokemon is quite frightening, although I think last season it did not do too hot. Yeah, Dragapult is still like very, very good with the 142 speed tier, basically just being outsped by Zero Aura and Deoxys Speed, Regieleki, and a handful of Megas. As well as the near unresisted Go Stab, and also solid Dragon Stab options to go alongside that. So obviously Dragapult, you can run it as like a pivot, you can run it as like a late game cleaner, you can run it Specs, Banded, Dragon Dance. Yeah, this thing can definitely serve as a win con in a variety of different ways, as well as a breaker in some potential matchups. But then, here's the crazy part. This guy drafted not one, but two of the broken Pokemon. He picks Dragapult and then Zamazenta. So, Zamazenta, last season it was on Jesus' team. I think throughout the season, people kind of memed on it for being pretty bad. But then we saw the power when Jesus unleashed it against Broken Motor's team, and it basically just 6-0'd him on the spot. But yeah, Zamazenta crowned. Obviously, even though it is objectively like not a good, it's not a Pokemon that was designed to be good, but still, because of how massive its base stats are, when you bring it down to a lower power level, like in draft, then it ends up being overbearing for certain teams. So, yeah, obviously it has the close combat, it has the Behemoth Bash, a few coverage options, as well as the pitiful Howl as its only boosting move. Though in some matchups, that is certainly all you need. But not only did he draft these two monstrous Pokemon, he backs it up with a support Togekiss. I am actually quite a big fan of this pick, or initially I was not a huge fan, but then I remembered this gets Moonblast now, so then yes, it's a good pick. It has Moonblast. So obviously, like, this is, I feel like, undisputed the best Fairy Dragon Steel in the whole league, just by virtue of having two broken Pokemon and then another Pokemon that is pretty good tacked on there. But yeah, I mean, at this point, Moad is kind of running low on points, but I feel like that is not a huge issue when you have Dragapult, Zamasu, Togekiss, and Volcarona in the back too. So this guy not only has like some very powerful breakers, he also has like a very, very solid win con, which will literally always force prep from the opponents. So yeah, this is an extremely terrifying team. He also picks Mamoswine, Empoleon with Roost, Umbreon, and these guys down here. So, what to say about this team? I think, I mean, overall, this is very good. I'm kind of hesitating to say that it's one of the best, because I do have a few gripes, I think, and one of them would be Mamoswine. I'm not sure how I feel about this yet. I feel like at this point in the draft, there were plenty of better ground types that he could have picked, or he could have like held off and picked just like something better and picked like a different ground type later on. Yeah, Mamoswine is kind of weird because usually you want your ground types to be able to serve some sort of defensive purpose, and Mamoswine just does not do that. Although it is an extremely powerful breaker, so it does have that going for it. And then he picks up Empoleon. I do like this pick since it has Stealth Rocks, as Roost, has Defog, and with his other Steel type being Zamazenta C, then he can kind of like play this more aggressively or offensively and have Empoleon be the more defensive one, or he could like play it vice versa, and run some like crazy offensive Empoleon set, and rely on Zamazenta to tank the hits. I think actually his main reason for grabbing Empoleon was that Zamazenta is a steel that does not resist Fairy or Flying, which, looking at his team, that would definitely be a very big problem if he didn't pick Empoleon. So, in that aspect, it does tie the team together. But in another aspect, right, his water is now a water that does not resist fire. So, yes, this is yet another team that gets V-created. Like, look at all these Pokemon, they die. And next up, he picks Umbreon, which I'm never a fan of Umbreon. I do not think it's good, but at 9 points, I think it was a decent value pick for his team, because looking at the rest of his team, well, he would kind of die to like a ghost type spamming Shadow Ball, for example, or like possibly some jank setup Psychic type if he doesn't play around it well, and Umbreon is a bit of a failsafe against those. And I already mentioned Volcarona. I'm going to skip this guy for now, but Lurantis, I mean, good pick. It's a nice ground resist. As contrary, it could potentially do some things in some games. Linoon, I don't know why he picked this again. Like, he picked this last season too, and I feel like it's just not good. Like, if you look at every single team, I'm pretty sure every team has some way to deal with this. Like, you just need a decently bulky steel that can hold a rocky helmet, and this Pokemon is going to die. Or like some priority or something. But I don't know, maybe some teams are more weak against it, like this team is more weak against it. But yeah, and then he picks up 1 point Ninjask, one of the more value 1-pointers, so I can respect it. But talking about Bayonet Mega is just really bad. That's why it's 2 points. It's 2 points for a reason. You give up the opportunity of getting an actually good Mega, and instead you're stuck with Bayonet Mega. So, I mean, with how top-heavy his team was going, I suppose he had to kind of grab a budget Mega, but, you know, I'm always of the opinion that Bayonet Mega sucks. It's like the worst Mega out there. So, with that being said, I don't think I can put this team in the number 1 spot. But still, it's a very, very scary team. Yeah, I think we have established a cadence of going, putting every 2 on the rankings, so I will stick with that. And yeah, move on to Jesus, aka Baron Bunny, aka the coach of the Go Scorbunnies. This is a fire logo, by the way. When we're getting to logo rankings, I think this will be one of the top ones. But yes, anyways, Jesus franchises the Dracovish. So Dracovish was franchised for, let me check how many points. It was franchised for, wait, that's the wrong one. For 4 points, so essentially a 17-point Dracovish, which, I'm going to be completely honest, this Pokemon kind of sucks ass in Draft League. But, I mean, against more inexperienced players, which I guess some of our coaches are, then it does have a funny kill button right there. So, fair enough, you know, fair enough. Jesus grabs the Dracovish, then he grabs Urshifu Single, so literally like the 2 most powerful breakers on the draft board, he just like grabs them both, like the 2 most powerful 1-trick, 1-attack breakers on the board. Urshifu Single, we saw how potent it was in the hands of the single strikers last season, and now it is on Jesus' team. And then with these next picks, this is just my theory, but I feel like this was almost a tribute to Random because I remember in the game with Jesus versus Random, he just like walled his team with Tapu Fini and Skarmory. So my theory is that he's now so traumatized that he had to pick them up. But whether that's true or not, the fact stands that they are pretty good picks. But now like his team is quite weak to Electric, but we'll get there. And then we see a Cinderace pick. I think, yeah, this is a good pick. It's a good pivot. Like, I guess he can bait in the bulky grounds and U-turn out into Dracovish. He can bait out the bulky waters, and maybe go into Finny to set up on them. And in general, it can be a win con as well, just being so fast that it's possible that the opponent just has nothing faster than it by the end of the game. He picks up Kangaskhan Mega, which was honestly a complete disappointment from last season. Sunny had it, but then he ended up dropping it for the Beedrill, which I think did better for his team than the Kangaskhan. But we'll see if Jesus can do some funny things with it. Then he picked up Corsola, Galar, and Donphan, two Pokemon that I think are very bad. I mean, obviously Corsola Galar did some good things for Christian last season because it was like the only answer that he had to some Pokemon, and people just didn't know how to play around it. But yeah, I don't know. It's very predictable. It's very easy to take advantage of. But it does give him like a rocker, I guess. It gives him a fighting immune, I guess. And he also picked up Donphan, which is a spinner. He actually has very good removal on this team, being able to like defog with these guys, court change with this guy, and spin with this guy. I think Jesus is probably not very worried about hazards, or at least rocks and spikes. And then yeah, and then he got Donphan, which is the ground type. That will switch into like the Volt switches, I guess. The problem with Donphan is that it's quite frail on the special side. So if any of the electric types have some sort of coverage to hit Donphan, like Bolt Beam coverage would destroy this team for sure. Yeah, honestly, in my opinion, not a big fan of Donphan. Tauros, I would say, is never a bad pickup. It's just kind of like a nice 5-point mon you can slap on any team. Good speed tier, decent offense. Then he grabbed Rampardos for some reason, and then he picked up the mascot pick in Scorbunny. I just think it's so funny that he has both Cinderace and Scorbunny. But hey, Scorbunny can use Libero, and Cinderace cannot, so it has that going for it. Yeah, I don't know. Overall, this team is okay. The first thing I will say is that it's not walled by a single type, which is already a huge step up from Jesus' team last season. So great job. And yeah, I guess also besides the electric thing, T-Spikes would do this team in just because you have a Fini on it, and having a Fini with no poison is like just asking your Fini to be useless against T-Spikes. But besides that, I don't know. I feel like this team is just like, it's not a bad team, but the Pokemon on it are just not very good. Like, across this entire team, he has maybe like 3 or 3.5 real Pokemon. Although, obviously, Urshifu single being one of them more than makes up for that. Yeah, definitely pretty scary team to go up against. I don't know if Jesus is here with us. Looks like he is. Jesus, would you like to speak a little bit about your team?
Oh yeah. There's not much to say, just given the fact that
a lot of this was kind of like not really thinking. Like obviously I picked Cinderace just because it was mascot, and then I was like, wait, but I need to score my food. And then I don't know, I was just like, I like Donphan, I like Tauros, I like Rampardos, and I made them work before, like just when I play like on singles. So I was like, oh, just throw them in there, you know, it'd be pretty fun. And I did need a Rapid Spinner too. You're right about the Skarmory. The reason I put it on there was not even just to use them, but it was mainly just to keep someone else from using them because of that interaction last season.
Oh my gosh.
But Tapu Fini is more just because like I kind of wanted like another wall, but like I didn't want to drop too much like in points, so I was just like, okay, this is pretty. And you know, I never really used them too much, but I think that I can make it work somehow. And then maybe the Kangaskhan. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of it was just kind of like I don't really have a big brain plot right now. I just kind of wanted to do it for fun because like I always enjoyed it. I don't know.
I see.
It was kind of like I didn't know that it was on the roster for like the draft until like a while later. So I was like, oh dang, this is actually really fun to play. I'm gonna do that. So we're gonna try to go with that for now.
Sounds good. I mean, I will say right now, there is a lot of funny things you can do with Mega Kangaskhan. But yeah, I mean, this team, like you said, definitely looks fun to play. I mean, I hope you have a fun season, and I hope you do well. Yes, I believe it is time to like update the rankings. I'll just like tag on Moad's team on there, and Jesus' team, I don't know, would probably go either above. No, I would not put it above Namu's team. So either like above Praj's team or under it. I would say it's better than Praj's team. So yeah, I guess this is the tentative rankings for now, subject to change. And yes, we can move on. So next up we have some of our newer coaches, or yeah, new coaches to the league. So first up is Sam, coaching the Striaton Mets. This guy's a huge Mets fan, so he just made his logo the Mets. And yeah, he got the wheel pick, I think. Wait, did he get the wheel pick, or was that someone else?
Yeah, I got wheel 16th.
Right, yeah. So he got the wheel pick, and just looking at this draft, I think he definitely capitalized upon that position, getting a very solid first two in Mega Gallade and Zapdos. You know, Mega Gallade, always a very threatening Pokemon in draft, just because it's deceptively bulky and extremely strong, and it can even like boost its strength to like high tier breaker levels with a sword stance, and then of course it's insane coverage as well. Just a fantastic Pokemon, and I feel like Zapdos, very good Pokemon to pair with it as well. Yeah, Zapdos being able to, I guess, Volt Switch out on certain Pokemon coming in, and bringing in Gallade to kind of like break the opposing team. As well as just being a terrifying offensive threat in itself in certain matchups where it can run Hurricane, Heat Wave, Thunderbolt, whatnot. So yeah, good first two picks, and he also got Slowking Galar, which is just a really broken Pokemon. I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm not the best at using this Pokemon just because I never know what set to run on it, and that kind of speaks to how good it is, because in any matchup, there's like at least 5 different sets you can run on this Pokemon, and they will probably be good. So very hard to break this Pokemon. You can't Toxic it since it's poison type. it's a decent fighting resist. You can obviously get knocked off, but you can also run stuff like Colbur. It has a lot of different coverage moves that allow you to bait certain Pokemon with the combination of said coverage move and a resist berry. Obviously you can run like the Future Sight AV set that's run in standard. Obviously it has regen. Yeah, overall just a broken Pokemon. That's all I have to say. And Heatran, which was, as previously mentioned, sniped from Namu and perhaps some other people. Just a solid pick. Like, yeah, I think I mentioned many times prior how strong, like, just an offensive fire type is against a lot of the different rosters we have in our league. And Heatran is a pretty good one. It gets rocks, you know, it gets toxic. Of course, there's like the ground weakness, but it kind of pairs very well with the Zapdos, who can kind of switch into those close combats and earthquakes that Heatran would not want to take. Then he grabs Swampert, which I'm a fan of this pick as well. Swampert can flip turn, is pretty big, you know, he will never have momentum, but now he does. Yeah, along with Heatran, able to get up rocks, flip turn out on, for example, an opposing grass type and bring in Zapdos to Hurricane. That could be like a potential sequence that makes you a lot of progress in the game. Oh, oops, what did I do? Okay, it's fixed. And then he grabs Klefki. I'm not sure how I feel about this pick. Obviously, he wanted a fairy, and that can be important so that the opponent doesn't just drop Dracos on your entire team. And Klefki also gets him a Spiker, which I think works very well with his team. Like, Zapdos, Mega Gallade would definitely appreciate their switch-ins being chipped by Spikes, as they repeatedly force them in. Yeah, especially like fighting type Mega plus Spikes is definitely a tried and true. If I'm being honest though, I feel like the Salamence is kind of a real downer on this team. Yeah, in my opinion, it's just like not a great Pokemon. It can do a lot of things like Dragon Dance and, I don't know, Wish Pass, but I don't think it's very good at any of them. Like a lot of other Pokemon on this board, I just feel like Power Creep has caught up with it. But, you know, I respect the pick. It's the mascot pick, and I think it is very well supported by the other members of the team. It's just that I feel like this team had some more potential if there was not a Salamence on it. Yeah, sorry. But within that, the last three picks, he grabs Superior, which is alright, I guess. It gets him a water resist. It gets him a faster than 110 speed tier. Alright, I've restarted the recording. I kind of forgot where I was. I think I was talking about how Superior resists water and gets glare and knockoff and stuff. And obviously contrary, but no hidden power, so its coverage is pretty dire. And he also picks up Absol and Slacking, which are two not very good Pokemon. However, I do get the sentiment behind these picks, because if he didn't pick them, then, like, look at his team. Shadow Ball is literally free, like Specs Shadow Ball, off of Gengar or whatever. But honestly, like, having these guys does not deter that at all. Like, nobody is ever going to prep for these guys. Slacking and Absol, I mean, okay, I guess you draft Slacking, you force a protect move slot on like one guy, maybe. So there's value in that, sure. But Absol is just not good. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not good. Yeah, I get the idea behind this team though. It looks very, very well thought out and put together. But I do want to hear it from the man himself. Sam, are you with us here?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Loud and clear.
All right, awesome. So let's see. My Gallade Mega pick is Zapdos. I mean, fairly straightforward. I wanted a strong Mega, and I wanted a strong flying type with good defensive utility that could, like, a lot of what I wanted in my mons in general was variability. Like, I don't want things that can be easily predicted. Like, oh, I am absolutely going to be running this set because I chose this Pokemon. That's not really what I'm going for at all. Like, even things where there's like a defined niche, like Klefki can be support, I might decide not to do that for a given battle depending on the situation. So just the option for me to switch things up was very important for me. So yes, I will admit Salamence was absolutely a mascot pick, but I do see a lot of defensive utility in it as well. Being a flying type with Intimidate, I think is pretty good. Having an extra defogger, I think, is very useful. And just being able to throw out strong dragon moves is also very nice. So, like, I don't think Salamence is going to be the crux of my team, but it is definitely going to help out the team if I decide to bring it into battle. And I did, and since I only had 3 points left by the time I was choosing Absol and Slacking, I wasn't particularly thinking about the Ghost issue, which I honestly should have. I really should have realized that my team just got completely bonked by Ghost. So I guess Salamence and Superior could have been done differently in those picks, but like Absol and Slacking, just the way I think they're obviously not going to be in every single battle, but just if I see a team composition that could work for what Absol and Slacking do well, then I might want to bring them in, just because like Slacking can hit like a dump, both of them can hit like a dump truck, and if I see a situation where it works, I might want to do it. But yeah, Ghost will probably be tough to play around, but we'll see. Other than that, I don't really have too much more to say about this team, other than I did my best to try to deal with all the different weaknesses, and it seems I failed with Ghost.
Well, I think you definitely have some counterplay at least, and mentioning the defensive utility of Salamence is also very interesting. I think that's something that I might have overlooked. But yeah, I think you did super well for yourself, man, and I'm looking to see like how you play this team during the season.
Thank you.
For sure. And alright. Okay, it's finally time to talk about this team. Oh my gosh. Yes, Amos Lupin. I have no clue who this guy is. Does anyone here know who he is? No one? Like I said, this is literally the broken motor of this season. Like, I don't know who this guy is. He came in here drafting like some weird ass tryhard stall. But the thing is, unlike broken motor last season, stall is not even good. Like, okay, first of all, stall is not even good, and second of all, he didn't even draft a good stall. Yes, Amos Lupin, coaching the big Brained Calyrex. He drafted Clefable round 1, Chansey round 2 for some reason, and then he was like, oh wow, I got Chansey and Clefable, I might as well go full stall, and I guess that's exactly what he did. So he has the Chansey, Clefable, Moltres, Mega Sableye, Alomomola, pretty classic stall Pokemon. He grabbed Pyukumuku, which I think could be pretty funny, I guess. Jirachi at least gives him some option to not go full stall. I don't know. Avalugg is very one trick wall mon. Deoxys defense. I think you would actually see this more on offense teams who would rely on this Pokemon as being their like fighting answer and hazard setter. but for some reason he grabs it on the Stall team. And he also grabs Makalola and Tangrowth as the last two. So, what to say about this team? I guess just about Stall as an archetype in general. In draft, I think it's very easy for any like somewhat experienced player to find ways of breaking through Stall, or like finding some hole in the team and then capitalizing on that hole to remove some of the key walls of the opposing Stall team. And of course for Stall, every piece is like very essential. So in some matchups where if you can force one of the Pokemon to be removed, then they kind of just crumble in the end. And I could very much see that being the case for this team as well. And then about the specific Pokemon, or I guess this is still more on a general team level, he does not have a ground type, which clearly this guy did not watch PokeAim MD, otherwise he would know the importance of having a ground type. But yes, I would say that every team should have a ground type, and since this one does not, then it is really opened up to Pokemon just spamming Volt Switch on his team. Like, if they can lay up a spike and then spam Volt Switch, his team is just slowly going to die. Obviously, Mega Sableye could make it difficult to lay up that rocks or spikes in the first place, but again, this being draft, there are certain ways to force your way past Mega Sableye, I would say. As well as just there being some rockers that naturally beat Sableye and would scare it out. And once those hazards do go up, then his removal options are Avalugg and Moltres. So as long as the opponent can kind of prevent those from removing the hazards, then he might be in for a bit of a tough time. Yes, and another thing with like the lack of a ground, this team used to like fold to, I don't know, one move, zero aura, spamming Plasma Fists. I mean, now he grabbed a Tangrowth, so maybe it doesn't anymore. Kinda still does, but at least, okay, I can respect the Tangrowth pick for that purpose. As well as the Makalola pick, I think this was a very crucial pickup for him, because this, in combination with Jirachi, is his best answer to attack Tapu Lele, just clicking moves. Yeah, now it'll have to run some more moves, I think. But yeah, I mean, in general, I think Makalola, it was the right pickup for this team, but it's also just like not that great with the nerf of the Super Berries, as well as the removal of Pursuit is huge for it. So yeah, I cannot call like a single one of his Pokemon. Okay, Clefable. I can say Clefable is a good Pokemon. The rest of them, not so much. Okay, Moltres is alright. But yeah, this team is just, I don't know. I know this guy, he has a lot of Smogon and Monotype experience, so he will probably be able to make it work, but I feel like it will not be a very fun season for him. That's just my opinion. And yeah, I mean, Stall has literally never done anything good in draft. There is a total of one high-level draft player who can make Stall work, and even then, his team's like struggle with very common archetypes like Garchomp, like just a regular Garchomp, can threaten to break that guy's team. It's just, yeah, I don't know, maybe with like the lower skill cap of our league, Amos Lupin will be able to find himself some success. And yeah, I believe he isn't here with us today, so we can just move on with the ranking of the teams. So, like I said, Sam's team I would say is pretty good. Put it up here. And the Stall team, like I said, I just think it's not good. I'll put them down here. And yeah, I guess now we can move on to the last two teams. And I'll take a quick water break. So Joseph, he's coaching the No Torchics. And he started off with, in my opinion, probably the best top two in the entire league. Garchomp and Mega Scizor. This core is a real tried and true, and nowadays you pretty much do not come across it at all because Garchomp and Scizor would both get picked up by different teams since they're that good. Obviously our league is a bit of a different situation with all the broken Pokemon here. So Joseph was able to snag himself a pretty top tier core. And then looking at the rest of his team, well, I just gotta say, it has often been said that draft players and Pokemon players in general, let's be honest, are not very creative. You see, there's little incentive to invent a draft all on your own when you can just go and steal someone else's draft. And that was certainly the case here, as Joseph picks up pretty much like the exact same like top few Pokemon that has repeatedly been used in draft leagues big and small. You know, you see the Garchomp, Scizor, you see the Suicune, you see the Snorlax, the Roserade guy for spikes. He also grabs Rotom Wash, and yeah, I think let's just go through these one by one. So Suicune, decent pickup with Garchomp and Mega Scizor. Obviously, like, for the same reasons that a bulky water would have been helpful on Broken Motor's team, just sponging those water, ice, and fire moves, which Garchomp and Mega Scizor would not appreciate. However, I would say Suicune is another Pokemon that is, like, a bit dated. It's a little easier to take advantage of than, I don't know, some of the other waters available. So, round 3 Suicune, certainly interesting. Then he grabs Snorlax. Also, like, yeah, this draft in particular also gives me Gen 6 vibes. This is like a 2-year-old team, or not even 2-year-old. It's like a 6-year-old team. Yeah. With a Snorlax. I mean, obviously Snorlax can still do some good work with like a Curse Set or just like Banded Body Slam or whatever. But definitely not as good as it once was, I think. Not as good as when it had Pursuit, when it had the not Resist Berries, the Super Berries. Yeah, kind of relegated to being either like a Curse Sweeper or a Ghost Check, I would say, something like that. Then you grab Roserade. Roserade, I'm not a big fan of it in Gen 8, just because its main purpose is getting up hazards, and in Gen 8, every single Pokemon can run Boots and render those hazards useless. So If I were to go for something like this, I would have actually rather grabbed like Roselia like Sid did, to have that option there, but not kind of commit to it with an extra 6 points. But I do get that if Joseph wanted the extra breaking power of Roserade, this could definitely be a good deal for him, since, yeah, looking at the top few Pokemon, they will all struggle to break past certain bulky waters, and Roserade can definitely take advantage of that. Roserade along with Rotom Wash, actually. So I do see the logic behind that, and it could be a good pick. So next up he grabs Azelf, and yeah, not sure how to feel about Azelf right now. I feel like pretty much every Psychic that is drafted, or every pure Psychic at least that is drafted, will be there for the purpose of being an answer to one of the hugely threatening fighting type megas, which I think like 3 of them were picked up in our league at least: Gallade, Lopunny, and Medicham. So that is mainly the purpose of the Psychic type, is to answer to those scary fighting types. But Azelf doesn't do that. Azelf obviously very frail and is even outsped by Lopunny, so it really can't fulfill that role that a traditional Psychic would, and instead it's kind of on there for like hazards and offense, which, I mean, I can respect it. It does have a great speed tier, outspeeding the likes of like Latios and Gengar, which I think weren't even drafted, but still like other 110s like Gallade would definitely be good for that. Rotom Wash, in my opinion, this was a good pick, just because, like I said, it gives him another option to break past bulky waters. It lets him pivot on, for example, incoming grass types and go into Scizor, and then U-turn on them, and then it kind of like traps them in this vortex. Scizor, Rotom Wash, always a super good core. And not to mention that before picking this up, he was, I would say, extremely ground weak. Like, just spamming Earthquake against this team is pretty free. Sure, there's Azelf, but again, Azelf is frail, and I'm sure like every ground type has some sort of coverage move to hit it at least neutrally. So yeah, Rotom Wash, great Pokemon, and definitely can fit on this team. Then he grabbed Comfy, which I think this is also a pretty good pickup. Just getting the Fairy type there, so that, again, this team is quite like spammable. If you have like, I don't know, Hydreigon, you just like spam Draco Meteor, Scizor comes in, okay, who cares, you just flamethrower it, right? But then you have the Comfy there, that's some extra insurance against those dragon types. Plus, this Pokemon can just be like extremely annoying. Like, it can run some random Leech, Calm Mind, Draining Kiss set, and even sweep an opponent's team. So, good pickup there. Then he grabs Scrafty. Scrafty, I feel like it's alright. It's a very reliable Ghost answer, also like a very reliable Dark answer. And it also gets like a few setup options. So, well, I would say if your team gets swept by Dragon Dance Scrafty, it is not a good team. But there are certain matchups where perhaps Dragon Dance Scrafty can threaten some prep from the opponent. In general, though, I would say I would probably prefer something like a Pangoro, like the exact same typing, but just more immediate breaking power. However, if Joseph really valued the defensive utility of Scrafty, for example, like the Intimidate, the Shed Skin, and the overall just like huge amount of special bulk, then Definitely could see this being a valuable pickup. And for his last 2 picks, he grabs Magmortar, which at 4 points, this thing is kind of a steal. It's a pretty solid fire type attacker. Bastiodon, which is going to be utterly useless. Yes. I don't know. If you wanted a rocker, yeah, that's like the only reason I can think of that he would want to pick up Bastiodon, is if he wanted a rocker, so that he doesn't have to run Rock's Chomp or Rock's Azelf. But honestly, I don't think Bastiodon would ever be brought. It's just straight up not good. That being said, though, yeah, this team is a real tried and true. A lot of overlap with, I don't know, I guess historically well-performing teams. And yeah, definitely a very synergistic team. So I think Joseph is here with us.
Yeah. So do you want me to just like talk about my process of forming this team?
Yeah.
I have never played competitive Pokemon before, and so I signed up for this, and then they were like, okay, we're picking now. And I was thinking, oh god, I have to learn how to do this. So
oh, yeah.
To grab great Garchomp and Scizor Mega, who are 2 like Pokemon that I know to be really powerful, and are great together, because they really cover each other's weaknesses very well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I was doing like a ton of research, like trying to figure out like, okay, what do I pick? And so some of these, the like, Suicune to Azelf were a little bit like, okay, other people are kind of telling me what to do. And by like Rotom Wash, I think I kind of had figured out like what I really wanted to do. And so like Rotom Wash and Comfy, I'm very fond of. Scrafty I picked over Pangoro. I could have just not taken Bastiodon, who's kind of useless, and taken Pangoro, but I really do like the bulk and ability to switch in and like intimidate, because my team is like super pivoty, so I can like intimidate very easily. With Scrappy, switch back out, and just having like a really bulky Mon is good for, because I'm a little bit worried about like stall, although I don't think it'll be too bad with this team. I think if I could do it again, I'd definitely trade out some of the like 3 through 6 picks a little bit. So I'm thinking about my reagents right now. Yeah, it's definitely been like learning a bunch of stuff about Pokemon really fast. And hopefully this team will do well, and I can do well things with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have all the keys for success here. Great job, like, drafting the team. Like, I know you're pretty new to competitive Pokemon, but I feel like, yeah, I mean, you have a lot of intuition on letting your Pokemon not die from Nuzlocke, right? So,
yeah, you can tell it's quite a pivot team.
Indeed, indeed. All right, well, I wish you the best of luck, and it looks like we have Amos Lupin here with us now. So, if you would like to talk a little bit about your team, then feel free to do so as well.
Okay, well, first I want to hear what you said about my team.
What I said? I basically said that stall is bad.
Okay.
But you can hear about it in the recording if you really want.
Alright. So, like, what do you want me to say? Like, what my thought process was like?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so when I looked at, like, the teams from last season, I was like, okay, most of these teams lose to, like, stall.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so, like, I didn't really see any, like, wall breakers that could, like, break through, like, a good stall core. I was like, okay, if I draft stall maybe this season, I don't know, it seems like it'll do well.
Maybe it will, you know. I can't say anything for certain, but
Like my only like the only thing I regret is not drafting a Groundmon early.
Right.
Because a lot of people can like Volt Switch and gain momentum that way easily. So maybe I don't know, maybe someone will drop their Groundmon like a Quagsire. I don't know.
maybe they will.
Or you can just like pick up like a Groundmon that's been undrafted. Maybe
Yeah. I mean, you still have all 5 of your free agents, and I'm sure the board is plenty open.
Yeah. And that's all I have to say, unless you have any questions for me.
I don't think I have any questions at this point, but
Sure.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds good. I'm sure everyone else is looking forward to playing you, right?
Yes, and to those people that are like giving me shit on stall, I'm gonna make sure our games last at least 500 turns.
Oh boy. This guy is.
I'm probably gonna lose it in less than 50, right?
I don't know. Depends on how creative people can get.
Oh, they like lasting 500 turns already.
Oh yeah, this guy is a bit of a weirdo. Don't mind him.
His natural habitat. Okay, I'll make sure we end in 50 then. Just for you, Ray.
Alright. What a menace.
Alright, thank you for giving me a chance to explain myself.
For sure. And yeah, good luck this season.
Thank you.
Oh, I see Mr. Doder has joined us. Would you like to talk about your team, since we already kind of gone over it? You're kind of quiet, but I can turn you up.
Okay. Well, I wanted to do that playing around download would be interesting. And then I just drafted other Pokemon. So yeah. Wait, hello, this is out of date. Just to clarify.
What?
So I've already made 2 FAs, or 3, or 2.
Oh yes, but we aren't counting those for the purpose of the draft recap.
Not counting those.
Nope.
I was originally, so I guess some issues with my team were that I didn't really have a real steel type, and my bulky water is not that bulky.
It's Primarina, yes.
So those are like the issues I tried to fix with my free agents. And also my team is a little, well actually it's not really that slow, but it doesn't really punch into the upper speed tiers.
Yeah, you kind of have like Alakazam, and that's like your speedy guy.
Yeah, pretty much. There's not really that many like fast Pokemon left that are also not good trash. And also, like, I think Zarude is like goated.
Is he goated? Well, let's hope he is. My only question to you is, do you think you can recreate your performance from last season?
I think this team is a lot harder to use than the one from last season.
Yes, that is true.
And also, yeah, I would be surprised if I did do this, because everyone else's teams are also, I feel like, they feel a lot scarier for some reason.
Yeah, everyone drafted pretty strong teams this time around. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing, and good luck to you.
Yeah, I also know whichever Pokemon this time, so that's it now.
Rip. Alright, and last but not least, it is time to address our dark horse of the league, our Mr. Problem Child. It is Ray himself, coaching the blank with the blank logo here. So, Ray of Darkness, really living up to the name by round oneing Darkrai over here. Darkrai, also, I wasn't too sure about how it would perform. Obviously, we banned Nasty Plot, so it's kind of limited in its breaking capabilities, but it can still like fire off really strong Dark Pulses, like Specs Dark Pulse, or this thing can also Calm Mind. And it has a bunch of random utility too, like Will-O-Wisp and stuff. So pretty strong Pokemon, I would say. And he also picked back up Kartana. So Kartana did a lot of work for him last season, and you can tell he really likes it because he made it his profile picture. So yes, the Kartana is back, and he didn't even need to spend his 5 points franchising it. But next up is, I think what truly makes this team broken is the Kyurem. This Pokemon is an absolute menace. There's just no switch-ins to this. And if you think you have a counter, then this Pokemon can always run some jank funny set that makes your counter no longer a counter. Yeah, and moving on, he grabbed Nidoqueen. So I think this was a great pickup, just because, you know, it's just good. Nidoqueen is basically just Nidoking, except not as offensive and more defensive. So has the same, you know, ability to set up rocks, set up T-Spikes, absorb the T-Spikes, obviously, and fire off strong attacks, boosted by sheer force. So good pickup, and also a pseudo fighting check, which if you look at Ray's top 3, they're all weak to fighting, so this was very important for him to get. And along with the Slowbro Mega, which is obviously very tanky in its own right. It's basically regular Slowbro, so Christian got regular Slowbro, definitely sniped like half the league with that. Slowbro Mega is just regular Slowbro, except it doesn't have an item. So it can't be knocked off, sure, but also it can't hold like a Resist Berry, it can't hold Boots, Lefty's Helmet. But also you get like the extra insurance of like maybe the opposing Blaziken is going to sweep you, and then you can Mega and like force yourself to take the hit, basically. So I think overall it's a pretty good pick for Ray's team. Next up, he picked Crobat. So I think I said that this pick was going to be very crucial for his team. Like what he picked here would like make or break his draft. And Crobat was definitely one of the better options he could have grabbed. Just because with how fighting weak his team is, he really needed something else that could at least outspeed those threats that would like threaten to speed him or threaten to sweep him. So like Gallade, for example, right? It would 6-0 if there was no Crobat. But Crobat, maybe it can't switch in, but it can at least pivot or just revenge kill, something like that. Or, I mean, Lopunny too, it can't really like OHKO it or anything like that. So yeah, good pick. He could have also grabbed like, I don't know, Talonflame or Noivern, and they all basically serve the same purpose. I'm not sure what I would have preferred between Crobat or Talonflame, but Crobat actually does get a lot more options, in that it can, I guess, run special sets with Nasty Plot, or it can just run like the standard Super Fang, pivot, U-turn, like Brave Bird type of thing. So overall, like, yeah, I think definitely a needed addition to the team. Then Ray grabs Diancie, which also I think is good, because even though Nidoqueen is one of the most reliable rockers, it's always nice to have a backup just in case, like, I don't know, the matchup is super shit for Nidoqueen. Maybe he's facing Mono Water, or actually Mono Ground. Then maybe it does not look that great. Yeah, there's like certain matchups where you would just like rather have a backup rocker. Then he gets Goodra, which this is probably like the pick that I like the least on this team. Yeah, I don't think that he specified that it had any purpose besides being a special wall. So even in that department, Goodra is just like very easily worn down, has no great recovery, and it's going to really struggle in performing that role of being a special wall. We saw this in the Squigs versus Namu game from last season, where Goodra was Namu's one answer to the Nidoking, and it ended up just getting chipped and being beat by the Nidoking itself. Yeah, honestly, not a huge fan, but I guess I get the reasoning behind this pick. Then he grabs Flareon and Thwackey, both like pretty decent, cheap tier picks. I don't really have any major issues against either of these two. Like Thwackey gives him some priority, gives him grassy terrain, can help boost the Kartana or something, gives him another knock user. Just generally not bad. Flareon, again, gives him like a wish user. Generally just not bad. But yeah, I'd like to hear from the man himself. Ray, would you like to talk about your team?
So basically, season, I drafted kind of like a semi-stall team with like Doti, Umbreon.
Yes, you did.
It was like the most stressful months of my life, because every week I had to prep for like 20 different sweep threats every
Oh my gosh.
Oh, this season I just came in, I was like, not prepping for your threats, you're prepping for mine.
Okay, fair enough.
That's how the top 3 picks happened. Then I looked at my team and I kind of woke up, I was like, wait a moment, this entire team just dies to fighting a fairy. So,
Yes, it does.
being a fairy.
And that's where Nidoqueen came from, I guess.
Crobat. It's like, I don't hate fighting, I hate fairy. Poison sounds good.
I see.
Crobat. Then, said you didn't really like Goodra. I also don't like Goodra. My original plan for my last 3 was Virizion, Cryogonal, Udemaru, and the 3 got sniped. Last one is named Virizion, so change your plans. Here we are.
Bruh.
Specifically about Thwackey, happened was I grabbed Alola Raichu.
Yes.
I suddenly looked at my team into Coco, Alola Raichu. I was like, I hate my team.
Wait, you lose.
So it just force countered it with the most brute force way possible and said no electric terrain.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. If it's like a specific counter pick, then that definitely works. It like who you're going to fight now. You can make FAs to counter their teams.
So speaking about FAs.
Yes.
No, it's my profile picture, but I honestly don't like Kartana here.
Interesting.
Really weird. Like, I think from my experience using it last season was look at its attack stat, it's 81. Then you start using it, and then all of a sudden, often than not, like especially in like a drafting environment, it feels like it has an 80 attack.
What the heck?
Like, can run choice items, then
Yes.
you start switching. And you're like, am I sorting a slow bro? Like that keeps happening. No.
I don't know, man. Sounds like a skill issue.
I've got a few ideas for Cortana in mind.
Yeah.
The involvement not be on the team later, but another time I guess. Not really. Just for fun this season, honestly. I'll see what happens.
For sure.
First time using Darkrai, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Darkrai
Darkrai in my life.
seems like a fun mon. A lot of tools you can play with.
Because like I'm an AG player, and then a certain Pokemon in AG called Yveltal.
Yes.
Darkrai just not a Pokemon. Just kind of testing things out now.
Rest in peace, Dark Void.
Kyurem, certain match last season told me Kyurem was very OP. Kyurem,
Oh my gosh, I remember that match.
I'll mention that one. About Flareon, honestly, this is going to sound super stupid, and it honestly is, but I picked Flareon for the 110 special defense.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
No, how like I came into this draft saying I'm going to draft hyper offense, and then inner instincts just kicked in the latter half of the draft, and it turns into a stall team again.
Oh my gosh. Old habits die
I
hard.
looked at Flareon, I was like, ooh, Wish Protect. Nice. Carry on.
Yes, Wish Protect is very nice. Maybe not coming off of like base 65 HP or whatever it is, but
Oh wait. No. I definitely did not forget about that. Yeah. Anyways, I also know that Flareon Choice Band Poisoned Blitz
yes.
is 1000th thing to Obama Snow. That's
The Obama Snow abusers back at it again. Well, yeah, very nice to have you back, Ray. You've certainly drafted a very, very frightening team. Yeah, I guess with all that being said, it's time to sort out the details of this ranking here. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll slap on these teams to like the generally good ones. Yeah, so out of these ones, I think at this point, what I really gotta do is just start nitpicking, like trying to poke holes in these teams. And in my opinion, maybe the easiest one to do that to would be Adrian's. So, like I mentioned before, I think the lack of like solid ground answers, as well as the common vulnerability to T-spikes, might do this team in. And it also relies very heavily on Metagross to be the defensive backbone against many things. So it's a very good team, don't get me wrong, but this might be our next one over here. And then see, looking at the rest of these, Moat's team I think is extremely threatening. I don't think this thing can be anything other than like top 5. And same with Ray's team. NTC is Joseph's team. Honestly, I feel like Joseph's team might struggle a little bit with the offensive fighting types, and since those are so common, I might be inclined to put his team a little lower. Let's See Sam's team. I think Sam's team is overall very solid. I think I kind of expressed my grievances with that already. Broken Motors pre-FA team. Maybe I'll put this one next, just because it has a Cobalion on it. Yeah, I think that's good enough justification for me. Yes, good enough for me. Yeah, maybe next one is Joseph's. Might change my mind on that. And the next one might be Sam's, actually. Actually, let's look at Kyra's team again. Kyra's team actually has like the same problem as Sam's team, in my opinion. Where it's just like a strong ghost type absolutely obliterates this team. Since Weavile is the dark, and Weavile is not taking any hits anytime soon. In terms of other issues, I'm not too sure at the moment. I think it's like pretty solid versus fighting types with the Corviknight, the Koko, the Slowking, all there. Tapu Koko can answer a lot of the more threatening flying types, such as Torn-T. Yeah, unless something's like escaping my mind right now. Like this team is also solid versus ground with like the Gligar and the Corviknight there. But yeah, I think this might be our next one on the list. By the way, yeah, I did make the abbreviation SWE, and I trust that everyone knows why I did that. Okay, I don't think I can put Banana Thief any higher simply because he has a Mega Bayonet. So there's my very valid justification for that placement. And between Sid, Christian, and Ray, I think these would be the top three. Yeah, like I said with Sid's team, my issue is just that a lot of these walls are kind of like one trick. They're pretty like passive, and they just like, you know, spam toxic and whatnot. Raikou also.
There's no such thing as passive when you have U-turn.
Okay, sure. Christian's team, I think I did mention that it was a bit weak to a few certain things, and Ray's team also got the allergies to ghost types. Yes. In particular, there are a few certain Pokemon that could definitely destroy this team, but otherwise, like, okay, my opinion is that the top 3 picks, or even top 4 picks of Ray's team, are just like such big positives that it would outweigh the negatives. Whereas with the other top picks of the league, I feel like they just don't hold as much raw power and potential as well, just because like each of these Pokemon can run so many different things, have so much coverage options, and they all hit incredibly hard. So with all that being said, I will say my ranking is blank wall Heisenbergs. Just looking at this again, Yeah, and like I said, this was very difficult to figure out because at the end it was literally all just nitpicks. Like pretty much everything above here is like playable, and then everything above here is like very solidly good. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and say this is the final rankings. Take it with a grain of salt. And for those ranked higher, no pressure. For those ranked lower, hope you proved me wrong. But that's going to do it for the power rankings for this season. And of course, we can't end it without doing a logo ranking as well. So yes, let's go on to the logo ranking. Okay. Mets auto win.
Let's go.
Yes, congratulations. It's just too good, man. It's the Mets. And
I'd like to bring up a counterpoint. The logo has a salamence on it. That needs to lock it down at least 3 places.
All about the Sour Mets, baby.
Okay. Alright, at the bottom of our rankings is Rays. It's literally just a black thing. Like, to be lower than this, your logo has to be actively bad. And I don't think any of these guys are actively bad. Let's see, what do I like? I mean, Miami Walreins, it's the same as last season, but it's just pretty clean. This one is pretty good. This one I like. Okay, this one might be the next, just because, holy crap, that's so fire. The Zen mode Darm. Like, Namu has some real talent when it comes to creating logos. Scorbunny I like a lot. The No Torchics, this one's pretty clean. Alright, time to drop some more arbitrary rankings. Zen, Scorbunnies. I would put Christians here, but he gets points deducted for being lazy and reusing the logo. So instead, I will put Kyra. And I guess, yeah, I guess I'll put the Walreins here. And I do like the Garchomp a lot. Like, Sunny, your logos, I'm not gonna lie, they're kind of lazy, but you find some really banger images for some reason.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Big Brained Calyrex, this one's pretty clean too. I don't know. Boo's logo is just a placeholder, so I mean, it feels unfair to judge him, but also he did not get it done in time, so too bad.
No, yeah, disqualify me. That's a placeholder.
Okay, NTC goes next. And then the Calyrexes. Do I have to go from the bottom now? Broken Motor, I'm not gonna lie, your logo fell off hard. It was so clean last time, and now it's just the sus Sableyes.
I told him to put the sands Sableye over his Sableye and he refused.
Oh, that would have made it an instant top contender. Okay, yeah. Since Boo is a placeholder, he will go here. And I mean, Adrian's is not bad. The Groudon and Kyogre are very just standard images. I'll put Sid next. Simon's freaking cursed image here. Okay, I guess I should put the actual logos and not the ones that are just literally images. So next up we have the sus Sableyes, and then we have the Celtics, then I'll give it to Simon. It gave me a laugh, not gonna lie. And then we have the Groudon and Kyogre. I think those are the last ones. Yes. Cool. Well, that does it for the rankings. If anyone would like to object, then sorry, you're wrong. But feel free to do so anyways.
Is my logo on the list? It should be lower.
What did you say?
Logo should be lower.
It's the lowest it could possibly be.
It should be lower.
Yeah, it should. My logo should be disqualified because I didn't actually make it. I just stole it from Twitter.
There you go.
If that was the case, every logo would be disqualified. 90% of these are just stolen images.
True.
I made mine on my own.
Actually, you know what? Can you just disqualify all the logos that are just stolen images?
Yeah, pretty much Kyra is the only one with an actual logo that's not disqualified.
Joseph and I made our logos.
It's like an automatic first off DQ.
Yeah,
Okay,
Kyra
I don't
and
know
Namu
if
made the
made
logos.
logo or not. I don't know about Amo's logo. That looks like other fan art, but he might have made it himself, so I have no clue. Ray technically did make his own logo.
Oh my
Oh, so
god.
true!
What else? Simon made his own logo, that's for sure.
I've quote unquote made it.
You were there. I don't remember the history of Miami Walreins. I made my logo in paint.
Yes.
Oh, we have a new Broken Motor logo.
Wait, what?
Tech competitive.
No way! There it is. Alright, he's shooting up the rankings now. Wherever he was. There he is.
Easy as.
Alright, GG easy. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I think that about does it for the recaps. We went quite overtime this time, but hopefully that was a...
One last question.
Yes.
For the team rankings, is it from bottom to top?
No.
I'm messing. Alright, thank you.
Yeah,
For
yes,
sure.
It is. I'm the weakest team. Yeah.
Shut up, Ray.
Ray not complain challenge for 1 second. Literally impossible.
Literally impossible.
If I
Alright,
want to play right now, I'm online as Hair Accessories on the Plan 1 server.
wait a minute. Are we getting our first game?
Live game in the draft recap.
In the draft recap, let's go! My computer's gonna run out of storage, let's go!
Delete more stuff.
It's a stall matchup.
Uninstall engine.
Wait, it actually is a stop. Oh no. Oh god. Yeah, I'm online on the Planet. I'm gonna link it just for convenience sake. That one.
Okay, Josh, what you have to do is you have to stop this recording, transfer it over to your other computer, and then start a new one.
Oh my gosh, so true.
Or you could just uninstall Genshin and then easy.
I told you, it's not on this computer, it's on the other one.
Stop lying to us.
What the
That's
heck?
why we
Okay,
need-
I can literally search it up right now.
We need Amos and Boo to leave the call so that we can just live commentate the game.
Okay.
Alright, I'm gonna end the recording here. See you all next time. Goodbye.